microphones, so just start talking.
Smells like somebody who uses microphone smoked weed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it totally smells like weed.
Hello world, my name is Data Mining Mike and welcome back to the Data Miner podcast where we dive into different people, places, events, and ideas. Today we have a special treat for you gardening enthusiasts out there. We are mining deep in the enchanted world of Ohme Gardens, nestled in the heart of Wenatchee, Washington. We have an exclusive interview with the director, Samantha. Not only is Ohme Gardens a hidden gem with a rich history and natural beauty that will leave you awe-inspired. It is a meticulously manicured landscape with meandering pathways and breathtaking views. It is a social hub for people and networking events as well as wedding venues and unique outdoor comedy shows. Be sure to check out the links in the video description below. But that's not all. We've got more than just eye candy to offer. We've partnered with expert horticulturalists who will share their secrets so you can take your gardening to the next level. I am highly confident at the end of this podcast, you will be able to take what you've learned and apply this to your gardening or wedding venue. But wait! There's more! We are building a community of passionate gardeners just like you. So be sure to subscribe and smash that bell for more data-driven updates. So grab your favorite gardening tools, take a sip of your refreshing beverage, and get ready to be inspired by Ohme Gardens and the abundance of gardening wisdom we have in store for you.
How's it going?
Good. What's the burl?
Oh, this, we find burls all over when we dig through the gardens. And last fall, when the Ohme Gardens Friends Society was digging out Cactus Point, they found this burl. And it actually looks like an owl.
It does look like an owl. That's really cool.
It is.
I'm going to film that real quick. So it looks like they took it and they polished it up and they added some sort of glaze to it. And
yeah, they lacquered it just to kind of preserve it a little.
Yeah, this is freaking awesome.
So Cactus Point used to originally have cactus on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Ohme family, who started this whole gardens, they were snowbirders, and they would bring the cactus into their house in the winters. And their house burnt down one winter.
Oh, shit.
And they lost all of the cacti. So there hadn't been any cacti out on Cactus Point since 1963. So last year, at the very end of 2022 season, the Friends Society dug out, and they're a group of volunteers. They dug out Cactus Point, and they found people who were willing to donate native cactus to the area. And we have replanted cactus on Cactus Point for the first time since 1953.
No shit.
And that little burl is a souvenir of the excavating that happened.
To make Cactus Point.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Actually, Cactus Point is where the entire garden began.
All right.
So Herman Ohme was a Illinois boy by, what do I want to say? Origin. And he moved out here in the 1900s, early 1900s. And he bought this land, 40 acres of just rocky cliffside bluff with nothing but an additional 10-acre apple orchard. And so he bought it, and he would work in his orchard in the day, and then in the evenings he would walk up to the area of the gardens that is Cactus Point, and he would watch the sunset over the enchantments. And he just decided, I want to build a house here. And he met and married his wife, a local, Ruth. And they just started working on their backyard because in 1929, banks weren't loaning money. Why?
The crash?
The Great Depression.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So that's always my big question for kids when we bring
Oh,
up
that's a
school
good
groups.
point. That's a good point.
I just want to see, are we still getting our kids who are stuck in public education, are they at least learning about the economic crash that we're probably destined for again?
Yeah, shit. That's a good point.
So they started their backyard, and the whole garden started there at Cactus Point. And they kind of just expanded around. They dug pools using the first pool that was dug here was Sylvan Pool, and it was dug using a mule and a drag bucket.
Damn.
And it was the family's private swimming pool. You don't swim in it today. It's shady. And yeah, it's that pool right there.
Looks like it's perfect to give water births.
Oh my God, gross.
Could you imagine if people came here and started doing water births?
No, I would not allow it.
In the pool?
I don't think a midwife
Can
would
you
allow
imagine if there was some woman who said, because there's like, what, 4 pools here? She had like a kid per
5.
pool.
Yeah, no, that would just be so gross.
Can you imagine that? If you had some trend of people coming and doing water births here in the Ohme pool because people believed the water was enchanted or some shit like that. And you have all these floating placentas out in the pond.
Gosh, Mike,
like lily pads.
We have lily pads.
Yeah.
That's all I want. All I want is lily pads. Oh gosh, that'd be so nasty. No, we like have legitimately fished drowned birds, chipmunks, lots of little chipmunks, snakes, those kind of things out of the pools because we skim them every morning.
Oh no, drowned chipmunks?
Yeah, it's sad. They go down for a drink of water and they fall in and then they can't get out.
How do you prevent this?
I mean, we don't.
Can't they swim? So it's like they can't get out of the thing.
I think, yeah, they just get stuck on certain spots that they can't get out of. It doesn't happen all that often. But it's kind of sad. We've had some drown in Wishing Well before, too. But that's not really what I want people to know about the garden.
Yeah, I know. That's just well, that's nature. I mean, that happens all the time.
Yeah,
it happens in every single pond. Everywhere in the world. It probably happens in pools and stuff that's unreported.
Yeah.
You know? I'm sure there's all sorts of animals that are dead in pools, too. So, I mean, that's just a benefit, or that's just a consequence.
It's nature. I mean, that's what the Ohmes really
water.
wanted. They wanted this to be like a walk through nature.
It definitely is. All the footage that I got while running, I started up at the visitor center and then I ran down, basically, well, I went up that way. I went towards that viewpoint.
Yeah.
Up there.
Vista House?
Yeah, up towards Vista House. And then I turned back and I went up and I checked out this back area going up the Columbia River, going north up the Columbia.
Point.
Yeah, is that Canadian Point? Yeah, so I ran up there.
It's called Canadian Point.
And then I ran all the way down to Hidden Pond, and I went to the little hobbit hole, and I passed like at least 5 or 6 little stone benches.
Oh, there's 53 hand-carved stone benches.
53 hand-carved stone benches. Holy shit. Check them all out. Who would have thought that there was 53?
Yeah, they're really awesome. And actually, people adopt them. They adopt them in memory of loved ones or to commemorate special dates.
So people adopt them? So what does that mean?
Bench. So when they adopt a bench, they get a plaque, basically, that goes on our donors board saying you've sponsored this bench. And if they've adopted a bench that is in a little disrepair, because most of these benches are nearing 90 years old. The oldest one is as old as the gardens, and we're in our 94th year. So when they need to be repaired, and if somebody adopts one that really needs repair, we get right on it and we make it nice again. I have my grounds maintenance manager, Dalen, is a master with stonemasonry and waterfalls. And he's redone 2 benches already this season, and they look brand new, but they look just like how the Ohmes would have made them. It's really cool. So there's 53 stone benches, and I think currently like 12 of them are adopted. So there's still a lot of benches for people to purchase in memory of a loved one.
Cool. So if you out there, world, want to commemorate somebody, you can purchase a stone bench here at the Ohme Gardens. So talk about your pet influencers that come.
Like my bighorn sheep?
Your bighorn sheep. Tell the world about them.
Yes, I forget how majestic they look to everybody else. We see them all the time up here in the winter. So normally our bighorn sheep start showing up in September, and they start to leave the gardens by the latest of mid-May. And this year we had a herd of 5 that lived here all winter long. And we would open our front door and see, the bighorn sheep's right in front of the car. We can't go take the trash out right now. We'd just go right back inside. But they mostly, they mow the lawn all winter, and then they eat the rhododendrons. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard for me to get rhododendrons to grow because they just eat them. And we purposefully plant a lot of plants that have been genetically modified to be deer resistant, because most plants just aren't naturally deer resistant. But deer resistant does not mean bighorn sheep resistant. It's always interesting to see what they want to eat. But we had 5 this last year. 4 is normal. Sometimes we've seen a herd of 7 or 8. They're cool. They're big. We started a hashtag this last winter, hashtag look at my bighorn. For any time you snap a picture of a Ohme Gardens bighorn sheep.
Look at my bighorn.
Look at my bighorn.
Yeah.
It was Dean's idea.
That is a good idea. Yeah, Dean was talking about how he was moving. Dean is the biggest volunteer in all of Chelan County.
Yep, he's Chelan County's #1 volunteer.
2023.
The biggest volunteer that Ohme Gardens has had. Bob Wilson is our second biggest volunteer. Biggest. Yeah, Bob Wilson actually dedicates his time to the cactus in the cactus garden. But Dean is my husband.
Yeah, well, he was talking about how he was moving the logs on the trail one day, and he's heard some movement, and he saw the bighorn sheep just standing there looking at him, and Dean thought Dean was frightened for a second or something.
Yeah, he's
4
times the size of a bighorn, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, he just wasn't expecting it, or like they weren't expecting it. But that must have been a cool encounter to be caught on the same trail as the bighorn sheep, and then wonder if he was like, if he wanted to get aggressive with Dean and then ram him. That'd be crazy.
That would be bad.
I know, but luckily they're more afraid of humans.
Yeah, no, they're pretty. They think of this as their territory, so they'll stand their ground around here in the gardens. But if you took 2 steps at them, they would quickly walk away. Or actually, if you sneeze, I've sneezed and spooked the whole herd out of here for a day or 2. Mm-hmm. But they've gotten used to seeing the family here. I think we just keep Scrump inside.
Yeah.
When the bighorns are out.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's the dog. Scrump is the dog.
Yeah, she's an English Springer.
So what have you guys been installing as far as plants? What have you been planting?
So I plant a lot. I plant a variety. This year I kind of really focused on bringing in shade plants to revive our top section of the gardens up here because it is quite shady. And then we have this area. So a 9-acre garden, we have to give different zones different names.
Mm-hmm.
And what we call, no one would ever know where's Lost Trail Corner or Once Upon a Forest or Tunnel Tree or Bottom Tip of the Diamond. Like, these are names that employees know because we need to be specific about where things are going in the ground. But around the top, Canadian Point, Once Upon a Forest, those are areas that have been quite shady for years, and we've finally gotten enough sunlight in there for us to be able to plant a little bit more. So I focused on bringing in shade plants this year. I brought in a lot of little mouse-eared hostas. They're really cute. They're just these little hostas, and they just look like little mouse ears. And then I brought in a bunch of astilbe because we've been redoing water features, and astilbe looks beautiful around water features.
What color is astilbe?
Astilbe comes in whites, pinks, and reds. It's a dark green foliage with little plumes.
Okay. Are they native to Washington?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a plant list that I am not supposed to deviate from, and I don't deviate from, but it specifies plants from Wenatchee National Forest and Okanagan National Forest, and they did pull things as far west as Skagit, so I have a little bit of play, and that's why I can get rhododendrons in here, because the Ohmes actually did have rhododendrons here in the gardens. They're just, like I said, they're hard to keep because of the bighorn. But I've been planting a lot of shade plants this year, and
well, what are those little yellow ones that are amongst the green when I go down towards...
the low to the ground.
Yeah.
Little yellow. That is actually a Lysimachia.
A Lysimachia?
Yeah. Lysimachia.
That sounds cool. That's a cool name.
She's a bitch.
Oh, okay.
She takes over everything. But Lysimachia, the normal name that people would know it as, is Creeping Jenny.
Okay, Creeping Jenny.
Yeah, and she will take over. We let her in times, like when she starts choking out other plants, that's when we start digging her out and pulling her out. But Lysimachia is funny because even if you leave, you can scrub an area down to bare dirt, but if you have left a half an inch of root, it's just going to grow again.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's really difficult to get rid of.
It is. Yeah, she is difficult to get rid of. And I always consider plants in the female. Because, well, yeah, I don't know why I do. I think I just do. Because why would men have flowers? Male birds are pretty, but I think that flowers should be female.
That's a good point.
Yeah. But Creeping Jenny is very pretty this time of year. And a lot of times if people come up and they ask and they're like, oh, where can I get that? Or I'll just give them a trowel and a little 4-inch pot, and I'll just say, just go dig some out of the gardens.
Oh, that's cool.
Because, hey, that's a 4-inch pot that I don't have to worry about.
Yeah, so that's 4 inches of a plant control. So that's what you can do to control plants, is you can have your people that come get some.
Yep. And
they get a free souvenir.
We sell plants too. So I figure what I need to bring in every year for planting, and then I bring in maybe double that just to hit my shipping needs. And then we sell plants, and we've actually had a really good plant sale this year. We've sold a lot of plants this year.
Well, you're more than just a garden. You're a wedding venue.
We're a wedding venue. We host a lot of birthday parties.
And comedy.
And comedy shows. Yep. We do our comedy series towards the end of the year. Because I was told by the guy that I used to help me book comedians with that I go to a lot of comedy shows. My Dean and I love attending comedy shows. That's our jam. And they're always dark. If you go to an indoor show, it's pitch black in there. And the theory behind it is because people won't see what you're laughing at. So if you laugh at a joke that you don't think people are going to see you laughing at, that's a better time. So I'm doing them towards the end of the year when it's darker, because today's the 21st. It's the longest day of the year. It's not going to get dark here until almost 10 o'clock at night.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, today's
the longest day of the year. Didn't even know that. Longest day of the year.
Yeah. So we have our first comedy show this year on August 25th. And all of our shows are a 7:30 start time, which means by 8 o'clock, it'll at least be dark enough to make people want to laugh at that joke that they don't think people are going to see them laughing at. And we can put, we sell 130 tickets to it. So we keep the show very exclusive because I put it all on our sunken lawn, which is a small lawn with a beautiful waterfall backdrop. Turn the waterfall off for the shows, though, just so I don't want to make a comedian compete with a waterfall.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be hard. Yeah, so we do comedy shows. We're doing just 3 this year, which is plenty. We do weddings. We pretty much host one wedding every single weekend, all season long. So for 6 months, every weekend we have a wedding. And sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 3.
Every weekend? It's not even on weekdays?
Oh, we host weekday weddings, but you can guarantee if you walk in on a Saturday, there's a wedding. Yeah. A wedding followed by a reception. In the last couple of years, we have hosted a lot of memorial services. Yeah. Makes sense. It's a beautiful place to celebrate the end of someone's life.
Yeah, talk about all the people you have to catch throwing ashes, dumping their ashes. You're not allowed to dump ashes here at Ohme Gardens.
Yeah, please don't bring us your ashes. The only family that's allowed to do that is the Ohme family themselves. This garden is creepy enough at night as soon as all the lights are out. This place is... I don't want to even think of how many ashes are possibly out there.
Yeah, especially in the birthing ponds.
Oh, right. Don't throw your ashes in the birthing ponds. Yeah, no, luckily most people ask. They're like, hey, can we do this? And the answer is no. Please don't, not here. It's a beautiful place. I get why you would want to, but please don't.
So how many species of plants are here? You don't know? Too many?
No, too many.
Too many to keep count of?
Yeah, no. I have several perennials books over there. And what are they? 600 pages of all plants that I carry here.
Oh.
Yeah, and I mean trees too. We have thousands of trees. We've cedars, firs, spruces, and then you just break that down into all of the different, grand fir, Doug fir, alpine fir. Our cedars are mostly just western reds, but we have blue spruce, weeping Norwegian spruce. Actually, I think it's called creeping Norwegian spruce. That is the tree that's over the Hobbit bench. I really like those ones.
Those are cool. I really like that. I got a good photo of that, or in your video, of that knotted, and it was all knotted and stuff going up. It looked like it had a bunch of burls. So like when that thing dies, it'll be a really cool burled.
Yeah, burls are just they're just a disease that actually happens in the root system. Oh,
okay. We'll talk more about that.
Well, I'm not an arborist, so I don't actually know exactly how it happens, but so there's a couple different ways that burls form. This guy is because a root just got wedged between a couple of rocks, and it still needed to grow. But there are other spots where And Wenatchee National Forest used to have like giant sections of just big old burrows in it, but people kept digging them out of the national forest, which is illegal today.
Okay.
But back when the Ohmes did this place, it was not illegal. Actually, this entire garden is illegal. That's kind of like, I think that's why I dig it so much. Because they pulled plants out of the national forest, they pulled trees, they pulled flagstone out of the Columbia River. They pulled water out of the Columbia River, but now we're on a 32-mile irrigation, 32-mile gravity-fed irrigation ditch, and then we have a 35 horsepower pump just a little ways down the hill, and it shoots water up here. And just for all of those people in drought-riddled places, I won't tell how much water we throw on this garden every night, but it's
a lot, yeah. Well, it's a really green place, and
it is.
This whole area is a desert, and most of the dirt is sand.
Yeah,
it's not really dirt. I'm surprised things grow.
Actually, our dirt is extremely healthy. If you go out there and you just dig down in the beds a little ways, you find like gorgeous black compost. Just because, so plants decay. They're constantly decaying, but they're constantly growing at the same time. So their roots break down and they just feed the soil. And there are areas where every year we pick another section of trail that we're just going to pull soil off of it. And we normally find that the trail is actually like 8 to 12 inches wider, just because the hillside has kind of sloped off onto the hill or onto the trail. And we just recycle that soil. Sometimes we'll go throw it in our compost pile if we need to, or we'll just add it to a bed. But we have really, really beautiful soil.
Well, that's good. That's a blessing.
Yeah, and we have a lot of worms. And we have a ton of birds and insects and bees. There's a beekeeper less than a mile from here, and we sell his honey in the gift shop.
Oh, awesome.
And yeah, so we have a very healthy supply of bees every year. And even though we do use some herbicides and pesticides, we don't use nearly as much as most ornamental gardens do. And I think that's why we have such a really good supply of bees, because we just, when we find weeds, we try to give them a home.
Okay.
We try to say, okay, you can live here, but you can't live over here. And if you talk to the weeds while you're weeding, you got to talk to the plants. Like, that's super important. But if you talk to the weeds and you let them know, like, you can't live on this side of the gardens, you have to stay over here. After a while, they actually start to listen to you. They really do. And they stay where they're supposed to stay. It's kind of cool.
Okay.
I know. It's weird, but... And every year when I'm training new gardeners, you know, we have 9 acres of garden that we have to weed through. And we break the garden down into different zones. And we're just like, okay, this on Mondays you're here, Tuesdays you're here, Wednesdays you're here. And I always just try to say, because it's so easy once we start weed training to just look at it and be completely overwhelmed. Like, oh, wow, there's a lot of weeds, but there's really not.
So everything looks like a weed? Well, no. A lot of things look like weeds?
A weed is simply something that you don't want where it's at.
Okay.
So, I mean, a dandelion is a weed to us simply because it's a weed. The dandelions are weeds. But a weed is something that is not where you want it, and it's a prolific spreader.
Oh.
So I actually even think of geranium as a weed, and a lot of people love geranium, and it's beautiful. It is, but geranium grows via a rhizome system, so it's like a giant tuber under the ground, and it just throws up new little shoots all the time. I hack geranium back all the time, but I always tell my gardeners, look for a desirable plant. Look for that plant that you want to see. and just frame it in a picture frame of dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And usually then people who are touring the gardens will, and it's just that picture frame needs to be just like 2 inches wide of dirt around that flower or that desirable plant. And people's eyes will naturally go there and they won't see the tangleness of anything else because they're looking at that framed flower.
That's cool. That's a good way to put it.
It
like
is.
See the picture within the garden. That's a good gardening tip.
Yeah,
people
it is.
to show off your plants. And you learn that you can talk to them. Tell them that they are to stay in a certain place.
Well, if you're a gardener and you're not talking to your plants, you're not a gardener.
That's a good point.
Plants need to be told they're beautiful. They need to be told you love them. And they grow. And they actually are extremely responsive to music. You know, play lovely, beautiful music to plants. Don't just listen to your earbuds by yourself. That's selfish. The plants want to hear that beautiful piece of Beethoven or Mahler or Stravinsky.
Mm-hmm.
They like it.
That's a good point. I wonder do you play over loudspeakers?
No. I'll just turn on my little
gotcha.
My little box while I'm out there weeding or so.
Yeah, it seems like it's a lot of work.
It is. It never ends.
Always out here. So what does this place have that other gardens don't?
A really cool history. I mean, well, all gardens have a cool history. But ours is far more unique. Like I said, it's highly illegal. Not today it's not, but its history is illegal by today's standards. And what I really like is that Herman and Ruth had no formal training. They weren't gardeners. They weren't landscape architects. They weren't masters of irrigation. But they made a garden. Mm-hmm. And actually, everything they made was just supposed to be their backyard. Which is
cool.
It is. It's really cool. They spent 10 years developing 4 acres. And in 1939, people in Wenatchee started looking north. And they're like, why does that hillside look green and pink and yellow? And so people drove up here. And a reporter from the Wenatchee World drove up here and did a small piece on their backyard. And the next weekend after that was published, they were completely overrun with people just wanting to show up to see their backyard. So they decided to charge an admission because, they're coming out of the Great Depression and they figured, all right, well, if we charge people to come up here, they're not going to want to come. But it did the exact opposite. It was 25 cents a carload is what they were charging. So people would park at the bottom of the hill and they'd all carpool into one person's car.
Oh, wow.
And then they would drive up the hill and they'd pay their 25 cents to tour Herman and Ruth's garden. And after a few years of that, they eventually leased out their orchard because they were orchardists during the day. And our grandpa is an orchardist and we've grown up swamping cherries. It's hard work. So they were orchardists during the day, and then at the end of their day they came and they worked in this garden.
Yeah, that's a lot of hard work.
I know. They were a different kind of people. I wish that they still made people like that. I wish people still had that kind of motivation. But they worked in their yard in the evenings. And the funny thing is they had friends. That's what always gets missed, is it wasn't just this couple all by themselves. They had friends that were like, hey, can we come swim in your pool? And they're like, well, yeah, you got to go pull the weeds first. Cool. Or you got to help me lay some trails, or here, help me use leverage and crowbars and let's lift these benches into place. The benches are very short.
Mm-hmm.
Like you feel like maybe they were really short people, but it's not that they were short. Those stones are fucking heavy.
Yeah.
And you only want to pick them up 3 feet off the ground before you're like, I gotta put it down. So that's why the benches are pretty short.
Okay.
But yeah, so they had friends. I actually heard this adorable story last year. I really wish I could remember this guy's name. I should have wrote it down. But his father was one of the guys who owned horses up in Winthrop, and he was friends with Herman. And it was Herman and this gentleman and another one of their friends that rode up into the hills of the Okanagan National Forest and dug out heather. Heather. And they filled the saddlebags just full of heather just to bring back to Herman's backyard. Heather, the plant.
Oh, okay. I was going to say a murdered woman. Like, what the hell?
No, heather.
Take up Heather and bring her back. Like...
would be. I think they would be hauling heather out there in saddlebags.
Yeah.
But no, they came back with saddlebags just full of heather. And I did not, that was the first time I knew that our heather here originated from up in the Winthrop area.
That's a pretty resilient plant that they can just uproot it and it survived the trip back, because I'm sure they weren't driving on nice highways.
No, I don't think the highway
probably took some time to get back to this place and then have the plants still be alive. I bet they had to like stop and like have some grungy saddlebag that they... you never know.
I don't even know how they did. I mean, I'm sure they had water and they watered the plant and then they put it in a pot or something, a bucket, and brought it back down here. But we don't plant heather all that often. So the heather that's here, it just kind of keeps regrowing itself. I did bring in some heather this year for where I want to reintroduce it in certain areas of the gardens. It's really strange. Every spring, though, you look at the heather fields and you're like, oh, I killed it. It died. It died. But it doesn't.
What color is heather?
It gets these little feather plumes of white and pink. And that's mostly it. Yeah, it's mostly white and pink. At least the heather here.
So they're flowers?
Yeah, it actually looks like a low-growing juniper bush.
Okay.
But it's softer than that. It's really soft. And when it's blooming, there's these little spikes that just bloom up through it. And the saying is heather like a feather. Because when it blows in the wind, it just looks like these little pink feathers blowing on the top of this shrub.
Oh, cool. Hopefully I caught that on my...
I don't think it's blooming yet.
Oh.
Yeah. Sometimes heather blooms very early and sometimes it's very late. But ours will be late this year because even last week when I was down in the hidden pool area where most of our heather fields are at, it still looks kind of dead. It's alive though. Like there's ways that you test to make sure that it's... I just think it was a really hard winter. And...
So if it's a hard winter, there'll be more work in the spring and summer?
I think it just takes them longer to revive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk about the outreach in the community that Ohme Gardens does. So you guys have school buses that come up here, and you have a program you started with just like special needs kids.
Oh yeah, okay. So we have lots of school groups that come up here, and school groups that come here from disadvantaged areas of the state. They actually they come in at a free admission, but schools that come in from higher income areas, we do charge. I mean, it's a small admission fee, but we do charge those groups. But kids come up for field trips all the time, and one of my favorite groups is the first graders from Brewster come every year, and I just love those kids. They ask the best questions.
Awesome.
And so I meet with them out on the entrance lawn because it's pretty big. Normally when those kids get here, because they've been on a bus for 2.5 hours, they just run around the entrance lawn and play duck, duck, goose while everybody uses the potty and gets ready to listen. And so I give a quick little history talk to them, and they go out with plant guides and they look to find the plants that are blooming. I give them the rules rundown, like don't run in the gardens, don't climb the rocks. The rocks and the trees look like a lot of fun to climb around here, but it's not safe. And we talk about staying on the trails. Ohme actually does have a lot of plants that are kind of getting to the rare category anymore because of Instagram. Instagram is ruining high alpine meadows.
Okay.
Yeah, like people they walk off into a meadow and they lay down in the flowers and they take pictures, and then everybody wants to have that photo, and those plants are just getting trampled on.
Oh, those assholes.
Yeah. And so there are actually a lot of plants that are becoming more and more rare in the national forests and in alpine meadows, and we're doing a very good job at keeping them alive. And one day, I swear, I'm going to be a plant museum.
That could be.
It could be. Grant funding.
Yeah, that would be great to be a plant. But this is a historic place, though.
It is, but I want to stay off the historic register because once you're deemed a historical place, I couldn't bring in new plants if I wanted to.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, and I couldn't change.
No innovation.
Yeah, you can't change buildings, anything like that. And Oxyoke just has to come down, and bathrooms need upgraded, those kind of things. So like, I don't want to be we're a historical place, but we're not. We don't need to be archived.
Yeah, you don't need to be bona fide historical and get whatever treatment and oppression that comes with it.
Kind of.
Which is nuts.
So we do those school groups, and those are a lot of fun. But I tell the kids that, we're kind of like a plant hospital, so don't step off the trails. And they think that's great. And that group has always been really good. Like, shout out to the Brewster first graders.
Cool.
But then we also work with a couple. We mostly work with Eastmont school districts, and they have a life skills program, and it is for students with disabilities in the high school. And they come up here in the spring and in the fall, and they usually work for 1 hour a week with us up here, just doing life skill projects. Mm-hmm. This spring, we were met with a new challenge, which actually we rose to really well, and
Cool.
they did great. One of the students was in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And the gardens, you've walked them, they're not ADA accessible. They never were supposed to be. Mm-hmm. When you build your backyard, you're not thinking...
In 1920s.
Yeah, you're not thinking, how are we going to get around this place in a wheelchair? Because it's your backyard, and you're just... So anyways, we do have areas of the gardens that are ADA accessible. And so the two students that we had this spring, we just set up repotting stations, and they repotted all of the thyme that we sell here. So we'll dig thyme out of the garden. Sometimes we do bring thyme in, but they just, every week they would just repot thyme into bigger pots, and we sell it to the public. It's so you can buy a 12-inch plant for $8 of well-established Ohme thyme.
Yeah.
And that's what those kids did for me every week, and they did great. And they had a good time, and they got to be outside doing it. Last fall, they built wood bays, like for how to measure out cords of wood.
Oh, cool.
So they learned what a cord of wood was and how to measure out, and they built a platform, and they learned how to run the splitter and how to stack wood properly.
That's good.
And they stacked, and actually whenever somebody would come and buy a cord of wood while they were here, they would help those people load it up into their trucks and their trailers. And most of the time, the person buying a cord of wood paid them with the soda, and they loved it. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And they've built little railings and small fences for us. And they were really excited last fall when they got to use small chainsaws.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
That's pretty...
It all depends on how high functioning they are.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these kids are they're great, and they show up ready to work, and they never have a bad day.
Good.
So I really love that program. And we even hosted a graduation for another branch of the same kind of program. It was for Project Search through Stemilt Industries this year. They had students do internships at Stemilt this last spring, and I think it was this whole last year. And we held their graduation. So 7 students who, some of them were in life skills with us up here. Mm-hmm. They got to graduate here at the gardens this spring.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was.
That's amazing that they came here and they found something that they were passionate about, and they can feel that they added value, mm-hmm. and it kept them motivated to not have a bad day. Mm-hmm. Which makes me think about that. I know that some schools, on the Oregon coast, they have forestry classes. I don't know why they don't offer that. Maybe they do. Oh, well, I don't think they offer a forestry around here.
I don't think so. I had to take a forest stewards class that is for free through Washington. You're going to have to edit all of my ums and my long pauses. I don't remember who it's through. It's, if you just go to like...
So there's a forestry
there is a
stewards class that you can take. Yes, that's exactly
what it is. Yeah, it's for free. And it's actually really there for people who own large tracts of land with multiple trees on it. It just teaches you how to be a good steward to all of the trees that you have, how to keep your underbrush down. So when a forest fire does come through, mm-hmm. you're not going to be devastated.
Yeah.
And the conservation that I've worked with in writing our defensible space plan for keeping the gardens safe from a fire, if a ground fire came through here, we'd survive. If a canopy fire came through here, we would not. That would be the most devastating. So
it would be a canopy fire, forest canopy fire.
Yeah, a canopy that stays in the tops of the trees versus something that comes through the bottom, because we don't have a lot of underbrush here.
Yeah, there's no underbrush. It would seem like it would be very difficult to get.
Yep. We have lots of people that lose their sunglasses here. And sometimes we don't find them for a couple of weeks because they'll fall into some foliage or something. So when you come up to the office and you're like, hey, I lost my sunglasses, it's like a take a penny, leave a penny. Mm-hmm. Like, we just pull out the big basket of lost and found sunglasses, and we're like, well, take a pair.
Mm-hmm. So, and speaking of pennies, how much, I saw some change in the water. It doesn't look like people have been throwing.
We clean out the wishing well weekly. Yeah. We have a wishing well. Actually, Herman built the wishing well himself. We redid it this year though, because it was leaking really badly, and anything that's in its 90s is not firing on all cylinders. So we do clean out the wishing well pretty much weekly, because if we leave the money in there for too long, the coins get really corroded and gross, and most of the time the banks won't take them. But yeah, people make wishes in it a lot. And so we clean it out and we add it to our donations, and we bring in the donations.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you guys do movie nights.
Yeah, we do. We do movie nights. It's down on our lower lawn, which is the biggest lawn that we have here. It's also, it's also the same lawn that we host wedding receptions on. So we can accommodate about 150 to 160 people here for movie nights. And we have a 20-foot blow-up screen and a projector and a sound system. And our first movie night is July 28th. And we're playing The Princess Bride.
Okay. So what's the lineup for movies?
What is the lineup for movies? Right here. This was the piece of paper. I scribbled it all out on one night. So July 28th, we have The Princess Bride, the 1987. I don't think they've ever redone it, and I hope they never do. And then August 18th, we have The Great Outdoors with John Candy, in 1988. September 8th, we have the 1991 Hook with Robin Williams. September 22nd is Wall-E. And October 6th, as we're getting closer to Halloween, we have the 1984 version of Ghostbusters.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a good lineup.
I'm pretty excited about it. I have an in to someone on the Fun Flicks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Fun Flicks Outdoor Movies is the number one outdoor entertainment company in the planet. But inflatable movies, there's magic behind the inflatable.
Yeah, we don't use Fun Flicks. We're our own.
Yep, you're
Friday
your
night
own
flicks.
thing, though.
But someone told me certain movies to look for, and actors who are the better hits. And I actually think there's even a blog about it on
There's a
Biz
blog.
Marketing.
You'll check that out in the video description. There'll be a link to that blog. So if you guys wanted to do movie nights, these are data-driven results that can give you better turnout. Yeah, so talk about, you're the only place around here that even hosts comedy.
No, not actually. The Performing Arts Center, they host a comedy series kind of during the later part of their season. It starts usually in March or April. And then actually it looks like Mission Ridge has been breaking into doing some comedy shows.
Well, that's good. During
their season. And then they even have a summer series. But I think I might be the only one with a fall series, and I hope that stays. But we pay for decent comedians. I'm not afraid to drop the money on a good comedian. So our shows are worth it. We do dry bar. But the comedians we hire can read the room. So it's a 21 and up event, and beer and wine will be for sale. All of our shows are at 7:30, so get dinner beforehand because dinner's not offered here. There is a desserts vendor though, so you can get some beer, wine, cake pops, dessert shooters, whatever. Eat a brownie.
Yeah.
And enjoy some very relatable, not raunch comedy.
Well, it's a beautiful event, especially the photos you get. It's all lit up in the grass. It's a really unique thing. I've never seen anybody do comedy like that.
Oh no! Last year when the comedians showed up, they were just in awe of wow, this is a very unique space. They weren't quite sure at the very first show how it was going to go because it is, you're kind of in the middle of the woods, but you're not.
Yeah.
It went really well.
Yeah. I think it's the coolest, one of the more exciting things you got going on that you've broken into in the world of stand-up comedy and giving comics a chance to get in front of people and grow themselves in a unique venue?
If I could choose, you know, like, all right, you're paying $40 for a ticket. Granted, our tickets are only, I think they're $25. If I were gonna spend $25 on a movie or on a concert or a comedy show, I'm gonna pick a comedy show every single time. Mm-hmm. And I'm the director, so I chose comedy.
Yeah, which is cool. Which is really cool, because how many other... Well, there's not many historic gardens that are hosting comedy shows, and especially ones like this, which are really unique, with the stone and the woods and the alpine meadow. That's sort of an alpine meadow feel.
Yep.
But yeah, and it overlooks the enchantments, or you can look, was it west and see the enchantments?
Yeah, you can, especially from the service road. That's probably the better enchantment view. Mm-hmm.
Well, how do people buy a ticket to the comedy show?
They go on our website, ohmegardens.org, and it's gardens plural. We have an events drop down, and all of our comedy shows, movie nights, fundraiser activities, they're all listed there. And then weekly, during the week, there's a yoga in the gardens on Thursday nights at 5:30. And then starting today in the gardens at 5:30 is a sound healing.
Yeah, I saw that. I got that on tape.
Yeah.
I got video of it. It was pretty cool. If I wasn't, like in a hurry, I would go and... I mean, I didn't know if it was like some private event. I didn't want to go crash their sound party.
No,
with the bowls, making the sound bowls,
kind of like Tibetan sound bowls. Yeah. So I don't know a whole lot about it. I just know that she was saying that the bowls are tuned to a 440 hertz, and you just kind of meditate to sound. Mm-hmm. And it looked pretty successful tonight. And
yeah, there were some people there.
Yeah,
it seemed peaceful.
It did. It seemed really peaceful, and I'm sure it will catch on. So if you're looking for any sound therapy, you can come to Ohme Gardens and do that. Purchase your tickets through the Sacred Empress, though. There's a link to that on our website as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, cool. What about Instagram?
We try to keep our Instagram for weddings.
Got you.
I was advised to keep Instagram for weddings, so I've been really bad at our Instagram lately. I'm pretty good with Facebook. Kind of.
There really is a lot to keep track of in the world of social media.
There is. I have someone who is that's her job, is on Sundays when she's in doing the office. She is my social media gal, but she's been out for 3 weeks. So we've been kind of silent.
Yeah.
But I posted to Facebook yesterday.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we had a tree feller come in, and I snapped a photo of guy up in the tree.
Oh, so did he cut the top down and then fell the rest?
Yeah, he took it down small chunk by small chunk. It was literally right outside this window. And we had a windstorm about 4 weeks ago where we sustained 25-mile-an-hour winds for over 24 hours. And then in the night, we had gusts up to 60. And we actually lost a tree that night. It laid down perfectly. Didn't harm a thing. Didn't take out a sprinkler. Nothing. It just laid down perfectly. But later that day, after we got that tree all bucked and the brush hauled and it's out of the way, I was walking by this other spruce tree and noticed cracking in the soil. And then it was very spongy around there. And that's a really good sign that that tree needs to come out before it lays down on its own. But that tree was actually its fall path would have taken out the stone table at our entrance.
Oh, yeah.
So I called up Guy's Tree Care, and Guy's done a lot of work for us up here over the years, and he is one of the best in the Wenatchee Valley. And he came up and he climbed that thing and he took it down small piece by small piece, just because they had a very small drop zone to not hit the flagstone on the ground.
Yeah.
So they got that whole thing. They actually took out 2, but down, cleaned up, ready to go within 3 hours.
What is the craziest thing you've caught people doing here when it comes to...
We find a lot of interesting things in the foliage in the spring.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, everybody. We got to get going. We're short on time, but check out Ohme Gardens at ohmegardens.org.
Yeah, .org.
All right, and follow them. Check it out. Like, subscribe, smash the bell, and bye.
Bye.
Oh,